Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Project podcast. This podcast, I'm going to talk to you about lucidity, being lucid, and awareness. Not only in the human state, but particularly how lucidity may affect the afterlife, or an out-of-body experience, or even lucid dreams. And the reason I wanted to do this now is because it's been occurring to me that lucidity may be a key in getting out of the matrix reality that we're in and breaking the reincarnation cycle. And so let's talk about it. First, what does it mean to be lucid? Well, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, they define it as a clearness of thought or style, a presumed capacity to perceive the truth directly and instantaneously. It even used the word clairvoyance in their definition of lucidity. The word itself, just lucid, interestingly, the Merriam-Webster dictionary has that as luminous, translucent, having full use of one's faculties, clear to the understanding, intelligible. And then awareness, the quality or state of being aware, knowledge, and understanding that something is happening or exists. So maybe the combination of lucidity and awareness is I think, therefore I am, and I'm thinking a lot. Well, I'm not sure. There's other definitions from other dictionaries. You can look them up if you're interested. But when you're dealing with lucid dreams, for example, it's when you become aware that you're dreaming, that you're in a dream, and then now you're able to almost have like superpowers or godlike powers. You can now change the dream. Just a little background. Okay, so when I was young, I would dream very often, and I would remember my dreams, and there were times where I had lucid dreams. As I got older and older, not only did the lucid dreams stop, but it got to the point where I don't remember dreaming very often anymore. So I've been trying to fix that by doing a little pre-sleep meditation, and I'll get into some supplements I'm trying also later on in this podcast. But it occurred to me, that when I'm reading books about out-of-body experiencers like Robert Monroe or William Buhlman, or if you've heard of Graham Nichols, you can look all these people up. They're either on YouTube or they have books published. Interesting part is that they will all describe meeting other beings. Sometimes they're people that are also out of body, but they're not lucid, right? Or maybe there's been cases, of course, of like ghosts and hauntings where people are haunting formerly alive people are now deceased, and their spirit is haunting a building or a house or a area. And we seem to discover through a lot of these ghost investigations, and even from some of the things that Robert Monroe and others have witnessed while out of body, is that these people don't even know they're dead. They don't know that their human bodies have died, and they're confused. They're in a sort of like a zombie-like state. So they're not lucid. Their awareness is also impaired. As human beings, if you're conscious and aware and lucid, it's an imbalance, right? So our awareness is now filtered through our human bodies and brains, and is extremely limited, and exists in a perception of linear time. And our lucidity is pretty high, but only as far as our human what's perceived as being human allows it to be. And then you go to sleep at night, and sometimes you'll have a dream, but you're not very lucid because you're not aware that you're dreaming. So you're You have an awareness, but you don't have a high level of lucidity. You don't have a full understanding of what's happening. Or, frankly, really don't know where we are when we're dreaming. Or is it an alternate dimension? Is it an internal dimension within our own minds? Our brains do have a quantum function. So are we in some kind of quantum realm while we're dreaming? I don't know for sure. But I know these things all seem to be connected. If you're new to this kind of stuff, let me just stop and say, check out my website at overwatchproject.com. That's overwatchproject.com. That's where you can find a lot of the material, all the source material I base a lot of my conclusions on. So we're like spirited beings in human avatars having a human experience, and we are basically ignorant. We're kept ignorant. The archons, the matrix runners, they do not use fear as a control mechanism. Fear, I think, is a byproduct of ignorance. They keep us ignorant, not only in the human form, but when we leak out of it at night. Perhaps all spirited beings go out of body, but we don't remember. We have dreams we don't remember, or those memories fade away quickly, and we're not lucid during our dreams. So what happens when we finally die? If we're not lucid, could we navigate out of the reincarnation trap? So perhaps lucidity is something that you need to consider as a tool that you'll need when you finally get out of body. I remember reading, or was it an interview? I think it was an interview with Graham Nichols. He's a OB or out-of-body experiencer. He claimed that when he was out of body, he ran into an entire group of people that seemed to be in a zombie-like, non-lucid, unaware state, and they seemed to be in distress. He didn't realize it until after he woke up, and then he saw on the news that a plane had crashed, and he became aware that what he had run into was the spirits of the dead passengers and crew, but they didn't seem to know they were dead or what had happened to them, so they were in a very confused state. You could say a state of being non-lucid. And what got me into this was actually an experience I had recently I want to tell you about. It was a sort of a lucid dream. It may have been an out-of-body experience, but it was really bizarre. So one night I went to sleep, and this was several months ago, but it was so powerful that I still remember it in quite some detail today. So it was as if I got to see history, or the history of the world, and particularly the United States of America, if certain things had happened differently. So in this dream state that I was in, or perhaps it was an out-of-body state, or some kind of quantum state where I was seeing an alternate timeline, the U.S. had never adopted the federalist type of philosophy for the federal government. They went with the anti-federalist, and as a result, the entire country was different. States were much more different from one state to another. You could travel freely in between them. It was really a bizarre experience. I'll tell you, one of the most bizarre things was that it seemed to me that whatever I happened to, I was sort of aware of what I was doing. I wasn't in my body anymore. I was a point of awareness where my individuality was able to experience or focus in and just know. You know, the moment I questioned something, the answer was there. It was a really bizarre experience. I've never had anything quite like it before. So I was sort of like aware of everything at once. The past, the future were irrelevant to me, and it was like I was seeing the United States of America, but it was the United States of America if the anti-federalists had won the argument back in the day. So the federal government job was pretty much very tiny. It was limited to maintaining cohesion between the states. There weren't 50 states. Hawaii was not a state. Puerto Rico was its own country. It was not a part of a territory. Alaska was only a territory of the U.S. We had never had a civil war, and slavery went away through sort of like an attrition as people's thoughts on it evolved and changed over time. It was quite bizarre. There was states that still had slavery on the law books, but they didn't have any actual slaves. Some states were more to one side of politics than the other, and it was really more diverse. And in fact, technology wasn't quite up to in present day time. It wouldn't have been quite as advanced as it is now. It was more like 1990s level cellular technology and computers, even into the 2018 year. So it was like certain tech didn't get developed. World War II had quite a different ending. And I don't want to get into too many details, but it was like I was able to know whatever I wanted to know instantaneously. And then when I woke up or came back to my body, I was able to remember all this and process it in a way that was not like a dream. It was more than a dream. So I remember, I just wanted to share that with you. So that got me started thinking on lucidity over the last several months. And what happens when we die? What if we're not lucid? What if we're not aware completely? Do we end up getting conned or just corralled back into a reincarnation? How do we stop that? So I started working on my own lucidity. I had at least bridging the gap, trying to have more lucid dreams. So I wanted to share with you, I found actually a couple of supplements to help this out. And I'm not going to recommend any one brand. I would advise you to take anything like this at your own risk and do your own research, of course. And just a tip from me, when I buy supplements, I do try to get ones that have a really high rating from a lot of people and also have third-party laboratory verification or testing so that these supplements are exactly what they say they are and the dosages. But there's two in particular I wanted to talk to you about. One was called galantamine. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, and you can look these up on your own. It's GALATAMINE, galantamine or galantamine. And the other one was Huperzine-A or Huperzine A. It's HUPERZINE-A, the letter A. These two supplements prevent the breakdown of something in the mammalian brain, this chemical or process, these receptors that basically reduce the level or affect lucidity. They affect the thinking process. But what this interesting side effect is that if you're taking galantamine, and I don't think it's recommended to take these two things together. You either take one or the other, or you experiment with one or the other, and you don't take them all the time. You take them and then you give yourself a break from them, and they stay in your system for a while. But like, for example, they will both have an interesting side effect. Galantamine has been tested in laboratory testing, and they've had a scientific test of them, and it does increase not only the dream state, but the ability for you to recall your dreams. So both these supplements, Huperzine A and galantamine, cause you to be more lucid when you're dreaming, and more able for you to possibly have more lucid dreams. So the ability for you to learn to be lucid when you're in an alternate state of consciousness can maybe become a habit. And if that becomes a habit, or perhaps you're one of these people that automatically have lucid dreams, you may be a person that automatically has an OBE. I've had people that have had that are able to have out-of-body experiences pretty much anytime they want. So you guys are already set. But for somebody like me that has like haphazard lucidity while I'm sleeping or in a dream state, and possibly, except for one incident, I don't remember any out-of-body experiences. This thing is very important to me. And if you're like me, then it might be important to you. So Huperzine A and galantamine are these two supplements. And I would avoid alcohol when you're trying this out. I would avoid a lot of things. But if you have a hard time falling asleep, there is at least in the U.S. where I'm at, there's a sort of an anti-energy drink. It's actually a sleep aid. It has 5-HTP in it, melatonin, and something else. It's called Dream Water. You might want to try that. But you need to take the Huperzine A or galantamine away from that stuff. You can't like take Huperzine A and then melatonin. These things will work against each other apparently. So you need to space them 3 to 4 hours apart. So perhaps take a Huperzine A during the day a few times, and then at night before you go to sleep, you take your Dream Water or a melatonin or whatever helps you go to sleep if you have a problem falling asleep. And then I found that, although I'm still in the very early stages of playing around with this stuff, there was one night I fell asleep. I would start dreaming, and it was really kind of frustrating. I would start dreaming. I would instantaneously become lucid. Almost as immediately as the dream would start, I became lucid in knowing, oh, I'm dreaming. But then that would cause me to wake up. So that was one night of experimenting. Then I took several nights off, didn't take any supplements, and try again. I had dreams, but no lucidity. So it's a work in progress. I understand that one possible solution is throughout your day when you're conscious and awake, wherever you're at, maybe you're in the grocery store or in a bookstore or whatever, or you're in your house or apartment, you should stop and ask yourself, am I dreaming? And then that eventually gets into the subconscious, so that when you are dreaming, you will ask yourself that question and then realize that you are. And then take over. Now, when I was young, I used to have lucid dreams, and these dreams sometimes were nightmares. They would start as a nightmare. At some point during the nightmare, I remember I would become aware that I was in a dream. At that point, I would get like comic book style superpowers or godlike powers. I would turn the whole menacing, whatever was menacing me in the dream, I would turn against it, and I would become invulnerable. I would become super powerful, and I would start chasing whatever it was away. So these things would happen naturally to me when I was young, but body and brain chemistry change as you get older. Pineal glands get polluted with crap from our environment and from our processed foods, etc. So I think that affects us as we grow older. I try to avoid GMOs. I try to avoid. I haven't gone like vegetarian or anything, but there are days where I don't eat. Days where I do not eat meat products or anything like that, or try to just do like a vegan day. And I'm not pushing that on anybody, because I'm not sure if that helps everyone, because everybody's bodies and genes, DNA are different. So you need to kind of feel what's right for you. Some people are more, I think, carnivore than vegetarian. Some people are omnivores. I kind of fit into that middle range where I kind of float between the two. My body needs certain nutrients, but it's not something that you can 100%. All these things have to be tailored to you personally. And so lucidity in dreams, lucidity in the afterlife, lucidity in out-of-body experience. I have had very limited entanglements with lucidity in these states, and of course I don't remember my in between lives or anything like that. But if you check out my website, overwatchproject.com, there is a link called Artifacts. And that's there because different objects that I found that you might be interested in reading about. But also one where I had a dream, which was apparently a recall of a past life, which you can read about there. And really there's no other explanation for it, since I was able to recall a name, which I then was able to verify of somebody that did live in the 1700s. And so it's very important that we understand that the way the archons or the manipulators of this world, of this universe possibly, control us is through the perpetuating complete and total ignorance, getting people stuck into group think, group dogmas, group doctrines, and that's something that I've more and more break away from, getting yourself stuck on stupid attachments or attachments that drag you down. So it's not like you'll find totally the answers for everything or some kind of unified theory from somebody else. You have to kind of investigate everything on your own and see it for yourself. That's true knowledge. That's true gnosis, is when you have a lucid awareness, understanding, and knowledge all at the same time of what you're looking at, without understanding that your ego works against you, your cognitive functions, biases are working against you all the time, and you have to be aware of that too. So, wow, it's been about 21 minutes, and I think I made my point. I'm going to upload this. I had recorded no live podcast this time because I did not want to have the dogs bark again, which they haven't done. I could have gone live this time. How about that? So, yeah, check out my overwatchproject.com website, and don't forget my Minds page, which has links and all kinds of stuff, usually updated daily with interesting stuff. You can get to everything from overwatchproject.com. I'll see you on the next podcast. And if you want to leave comments about lucidity or lucid dreaming or out-of-body experiences, or if you've had any experiences with galantamine, whatever, however you pronounce it, or Huperzine A, or any of these other sleep aids and supplements, leave comments on the YouTube channel or the BitChute channel mirrors of this podcast. That would be the easiest way, because I get alerted to those comments. And Spreaker, it's kind of more hard to deal with the comment section there until they make that a little bit user-friendly. It's just easier that way. So everything here is mirrored on BitChute, YouTube. I usually post the latest podcast on my Overwatch Project website right at the top of the homepage, and of course here on Spreaker.com, which is where I prefer to record this stuff from. So I'll talk to you guys later, and thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.